The fabric settled against my skin, cool and light, like a whisper I wasn't sure I deserved. My stomach twisted with that unfamiliar flutter, the kind that starts deep and spreads upward, tightening my throat. I stood in my sister's empty apartment, the zipper half pulled, my hand lingering there as if letting go would commit me to something irreversible. What if I looked ridiculous? Just another awkward attempt at hiding the weight I carried inside. But there was this pull, quiet and insistent, toward the curiosity I'd buried for years. I stepped back, breath catching, and faced the mirror. The blue dress clung softly, hinting at lines I'd never seen before. Possibility flickering in the reflection, luminous and strange, as the afternoon light slanted through the window, casting long shadows across the cluttered floor. I knelt amid the chaos of my sister's move. Boxes lined the walls, half packed with books and kitchenware, but her closet had become the real battlefield. She'd left town early for her new job across the state, trusting me to finish sorting through the last of it. "Just box up the clothes you think I won't miss," she'd texted that morning, her words casual over the hum of my own routine. I wiped sweat from my forehead, the air thick with the scent of cardboard and faint perfume lingering from her things. I pulled open the wardrobe door, hangers rattling softly. Skirts and blouses tumbled out first, a cascade of colors I associated with her confidence, not mine. I folded them methodically, stacking neat piles on the bed, trying to ignore how the fabrics brushed my fingers. Smooth cottons, silken edges that felt foreign against my calloused hands. That's when it happened. A small blue dress slipped from the hanger, pooling at my feet like spilled water. It was simple, knee-length with thin straps, the kind of thing she'd wear to a casual dinner. Unassuming, yet alive with possibility. I stared at it, heart picking up a subtle rhythm. Memories surfaced, unbidden. Fragments of past hidings, nights alone in my room. Scrolling through images I never admitted drew me in, then slamming the laptop shut with shame twisting in my gut. I reached to fold it away quickly, to bury it under the safer neutrals. But my hand paused. The dress lay there, innocent. Its blue a soft sapphire that caught the fading light. Why this one? It wasn't flashy. No sequins or bold patterns. Just quiet. Like the thoughts I'd pushed down for so long. My fingers traced the silk, cool and yielding, sparking a quiet wonder that settled in my chest. It wasn't rough like the shirts I wore daily, the ones that hung loose to hide contours I disliked. This felt different, inviting, almost conspiratorial. I glanced at the door, confirming the apartment's silence, the distant hum of traffic the only sound. No one would know. Just once, I told myself, to see what she'd packed so carelessly. The decision hung there, heavy yet inevitable, like agreeing to a dare that started harmless. I stood, holding the dress against me, the hem brushing my knees. The bedroom felt smaller now, walls closing in with the weight of solitude. I slipped off my shirt, the air cool on my bare skin, and stepped into the fabric. It slid up easily, pooling at my waist before I tugged it higher. My hands fumbled with the zipper at the back, pulling it inch by inch until it caught just below my shoulder blades. There. It settled, hugging my hips in a way that made my breath hitch. Foreign, yet impossibly natural, like a shadow fitting into light. Throat tightening, I turned toward the full-length mirror propped against the wall. The blue deepened the color of my eyes, softening the lines around my jaw that always seemed too sharp. Nerves mixed with an unnamed pull. A flutter low in my belly that wasn't just fear. I smoothed the skirt, fingers lingering on the silk, feeling the way it moved with me. Not ridiculous. Not yet. Just possible. The room's quiet amplified my pulse, each beat urging me to linger, to let the moment stretch before the doubt could rush back in.
I paced a step, the dress whispering against my legs, light where my usual clothes felt binding. Memories of suppression flickered again. Childhood dress-up games abandoned too soon. Adult curiosities dismissed as phases. But here, alone with her things, the urge felt less like a secret and more like a question, finally voiced. I sat on the bed's edge, the fabric pooling around me, and let my hands rest in my lap. The light shifted, warming the blue to something almost golden. What if this wasn't ending? What if it was just beginning? The bedroom door clicked shut behind me, a small sound that sealed the space into something private, almost sacred. I was already inside the dress now, the initial slip of fabric up my legs carrying me forward without much thought. But standing there, with the zipper still halfway done, I felt the weight of the choice settle deeper. My fingers found the pull again, drawing it upward slowly, the teeth meshing with a soft rasp that echoed in the quiet. Inch by inch it ascended, the material gathering and then releasing, clinging to my hips in a way that felt both foreign and right. Like it knew a shape I'd forgotten I had. I exhaled, the air escaping in a shaky stream, and let my hands drop to my sides. The dress settled fully then, the silk smoothing over my skin, light as breath but insistent. It wasn't tight, not in a constricting sense, but present, outlining curves where my usual clothes blurred everything into sameness. I shifted my weight, and the hem whispered against my thighs, a subtle rustle that sent a prickle across my arms, raising the fine hairs there. The blue fabric caught the late afternoon light filtering through the blinds, turning it deeper, almost indigo in the shadows. And my skin beneath it warmed, as if responding to the color's quiet demand. Turning toward the mirror felt inevitable, like stepping into a current I couldn't fight. There I was, framed by the glass propped against the cream-painted wall, the reflection showing lines I'd never noticed before, softened at the shoulders, a subtle narrowing at the waist that the dress accentuated without effort. My cheeks warmed, a flush creeping up from my neck. Not from embarrassment exactly, but from the rawness of seeing myself this way. Unfiltered. The face staring back wasn't altered by makeup or wigs, just the simple drape of blue that made my jaw seem less angular, my eyes larger, pulled by the neckline's gentle V. Questions flooded in then, unbidden and relentless, swirling like the dust motes in the slanting light. Why did this quiet the usual weight I carried? That constant press in my chest from days spent folding myself smaller. I'd always moved through the world in layers, loose shirts, baggy pants, to avoid attention, to keep the inside hidden. But here, the dress stripped that away. Not harshly, but with a gentleness that made the absence feel profound. It wasn't about looking like her, my sister, with her easy grace. It was about the stillness it brought. The way my breath came easier, unlabored by the old bindings of doubt. I raised a hand to smooth the hem, fingers pressing the fabric flat against my thigh, feeling the cool slide under my palm. A small adjustment, nothing more. But it grounded me, pulling me back from the edge of overwhelm. I turned side to side, the mirror capturing the motion, the way the skirt flared slightly, then fell back into place, moving with me instead of against. My breath steadied with each pivot, the initial flutter in my stomach easing into something warmer, less frantic. The room's air felt thicker now, charged with the scent of her lingering lavender from the drawer nearby, mixing with my own faint sweat.
Another turn, slower this time, and I caught the light shifting across my collarbone, exposed just enough to feel vulnerable yet free. The prickle returned, not cold, but alive, as if my skin was waking to the blue's touch. Why this pull? This unnamed thing that made my pulse hum rather than race? I'd dismissed it before as fleeting, a curiosity born of isolation. But in the mirror's honest gaze, it felt truer, braided into the core of me. I lifted my chin, meeting my own eyes, hazel flecked with gold, wider now, reflecting back something luminous. A flicker, hesitant but real, like sunlight breaking through cloud cover after a long gray stretch. I stepped closer to the glass, close enough to fog it with a breath, watching the condensation bloom and fade. The dress held its shape, unmoving, a quiet anchor. My hands traced the straps, thin and delicate, adjusting them over my shoulders where the fabric dipped. It fit. Not perfectly, not like it was made for me, but enough to suggest it could be. The warmth in my cheeks lingered, spreading to my ears, but I didn't look away. Instead, I let the questions simmer, not demanding answers, just existing in the space they'd carved out. The apartment's silence wrapped around us, me and this version in the mirror, allowing the moment to unfold without hurry. I sat on the edge of the bed again, the mattress dipping softly, the dress pooling once more. Crossing my legs felt natural, the silk shifting without resistance, and I let my fingers rest on my knee, feeling the texture yield. The usual weight, that invisible load of pretense, had lifted just a fraction, enough to breathe deeper. Not gone, but quieter, overshadowed by the spark in my reflection. Luminous, yes, that word stuck, describing the way my eyes held steady now, curious rather than averted. What if I stayed like this a little longer? The thought came soft, conspiratorial, as the light outside began to dim, casting the blue in softer tones. Hours slipped by unnoticed, the afternoon easing into early evening without a single interruption from the world outside. I rose from the bed, the dress moving with me like an extension of my own breath, and decided to wander the apartment, not to hide, but to test this new skin against the familiar spaces. My sister's living room stretched out first, the worn rug soft under my bare feet. Each step tentative at first, like learning to balance on a wire stretched taut. I didn't grab her heels from the closet. That felt too far, too deliberate. Just me, in this blue whisper, pacing the length of the room where she'd hosted friends, laughed over wine I never joined in. My hips swayed naturally as I moved, a subtle rhythm I'd never allowed before, unforced and fluid, as if the fabric encouraged it without words. Without the old bindings, the tight undershirts and layered hoodies that compressed everything into uniformity. My chest felt light, unburdened, rising and falling with each breath in a way that drew my attention inward.
The dress's straps held steady on my shoulders, the silk grazing my arms with every swing. Cool trails that prickled and then soothed. I paused by the window, curtains half drawn, watching shadows lengthen on the street below, cars blurring into streaks of silver. No one looked up. The world carried on, oblivious.
Curiosity tugged me back to the bedroom, where her vanity sat cluttered with the remnants of her routine. Brushes, palettes, a half-empty bottle of perfume that smelled of jasmine and resolve. I sat on the stool, the wood creaking softly, and pulled open the top drawer. Lipstick tubes rolled forward, a riot of colors from nude to berry, each one a small rebellion she'd worn without question. My hand hovered, then selected a soft rose shade, the cap clicking open with a sound like a secret shared. The mirror above the vanity captured me again, closer now. My face plain, but open. Waiting. Application came hesitant at first, the waxy tip pressing to my lower lip, trembling slightly as I traced the curve. I watched my reflection, the color blooming unevenly, a streak here, a smudge there. But I didn't wipe it away. Steadying my hand, I filled in the upper lip, pressing them together to blend, the faint metallic taste lingering on my tongue. It wasn't perfect, far from the polished looks in magazines, but it shifted something, adding warmth to the blue's cool tones, making my mouth fuller, more mine. The rose deepened the flush already there, tying the dress to my face like an afterthought that fit just right. In the mirror, the reflection evolved. No longer a joke or a fleeting whim, but a glimpse of ease I'd chased in shadows. The lipstick held the light differently, catching it at the edges. And my eyes, still hazel, still uncertain, held a steadier gaze, less averted. It wasn't about transformation, not yet. It was the quiet settling, the way the pieces aligned without force, revealing a comfort that hummed beneath the surface. I tilted my head, watching the color shift with the motion, and for a moment, the apartment felt less like hers and more like a space I could claim, even temporarily. Doubt crept in then, slinking through the cracks like evening chill. What if someone saw? A neighbor dropping by unannounced? Or worse, the meaning twisting inside me until it unraveled everything. The thought tightened my chest, a familiar coil, whispering that this was indulgence, not truth, that stepping back now would erase the risk. I stood, pacing again, the dress whispering reassurance, but the questions lingered. What did this mean, buried so deep? Was it escape or emergence? The lipstick's weight on my lips grounded me, a small anchor against the swirl. Yet as I moved, the stomach's flutter turned to calm, gradual like a shadow lifting at dusk's end. The sway returned, unhurried, and the light in my chest expanded, washing over the doubts without drowning them. It felt like permission, unspoken, the blue and rose braiding into something whole. I touched my lips, the color smudging faintly on my fingertip, and smiled. Tentative, but real. Into the gathering dark. The phone buzzed on the dresser, a sharp vibration that cut through the apartment's hush like a sudden breath. I froze mid-pace, the dress's hem settling against my calves, the rose lipstick still fresh on my lips. It was the vanity mirror that caught my eye first, reflecting the glow of the screen lighting up in the dimming room. I crossed the space slowly, bare feet padding over the cool hardwood, heart picking up a subtle thrum. Not fear exactly, but the edge of exposure. Like opening a door I'd half forgotten was there. I picked it up, the case smooth in my palm, and glanced at the name. Alex.
My old confidant from college days. The one who'd always sensed when I was holding back without pushing. The text was casual, unassuming. Hey, thin ages. How's the packing going at your sister's? Need backup? Simple words, but they landed heavy, stirring the quiet I'd wrapped myself in. My thumb hovered over the keyboard, the screen's light casting a pale glow on the blue fabric, illuminating the subtle sheen where it draped my waist. I hadn't told anyone about this afternoon, not even in passing. But the pull to share tugged at me, hesitant and raw. Before I could overthink, I angled the phone toward the mirror, capturing a quick shot, the full length, the dress's soft lines. My face turned slightly, lips colored and uncertain. Heart pounding now, a steady drum in my ears. I hit send, the whoosh of the message echoing my pulse. It felt reckless, like whispering a secret into the wind, waiting to see if it carried back judgment or echo. I set the phone down, stepping away to the window, watching the streetlights flicker on below, their orange haze blurring the edges of parked cars. The air felt thicker, charged with the weight, my skin prickling under the silk, as if it too anticipated the reply. Minutes stretched, each one marked by the soft tick of the wall clock, until the buzz came again. I smashed the phone, breath catching. Alex's words filled the screen. Whoa, you look free. Like yourself, finally. That blue suits you. Seriously, own it. No questions, no shock. Just affirmation that sank in slow, braiding with my own hesitant discovery, like threads weaving tighter. Free. The word hummed, resonating with the calm I'd felt earlier. The shadow lifting not just from doubt, but from isolation. It wasn't pity or surprise, it was recognition. Quiet and sure, mirroring the luminous flicker I'd seen in the glass. My chest tightened, not with the old weight, but with something warmer. A release that blurred my vision. Tears pricked at the corners of my eyes, hot and unexpected, tracing the edge of the rose without smudging it. I blinked them back, leaning against the dresser, the wood cool through the fabric. Alex had always been the ally in the quiet, the one who listened to my half-spoken frustrations about fitting in, never pressing for more. Now this. Words that nudged without demanding, encouraging the spark I'd kindled alone. Another text followed. If you're up for it, just try the block around her place. Fresh air, no big deal. You've got this. The suggestion landed gentle, a nudge toward the threshold I'd skirted in my mind, the street waiting just beyond the door. Courage flickered, tentative but growing, fueled by that unseen support. I wiped my eyes, the phone warm in my hand, and typed back a simple thanks, the letters steady despite the flutter returning to my stomach. Gratitude swelled, deep and anchoring, for this quiet ally who saw without seeing, affirming the possibility I'd only just touched. The room felt less empty now, the blue dress a bridge between solitude and the world outside. I smoothed it once more, the silk yielding under my fingers, and let the tears fade into resolve. Alex's words lingered, a soft light in the gathering dusk, prescribing not just acceptance, but the next step. Forward, into the evening air. Dusk gathered outside the window, the sky bruising into deep purples and oranges, pulling the apartment's edges into softer focus. I stood there a moment longer, the phone still warm in my hand from Alex's words, their encouragement settling like a quiet resolve in my chest. The blue dress felt steadier now, less like an experiment and more like armor, thin but holding. I moved to the closet again, rifling through the lower shelves where my sister's practical shoes waited. Flats, black and unassuming. The kind she'd slip into for quick errands. No heels. That would tip the balance too far, make every step announce what I wasn't ready to claim aloud. I slid them on, the leather cool and supple against my ankles, grounding the silk above. The coat came next, her wool one in neutral gray, long enough to drape over the dress's hem, hiding the blue from immediate view. I buttoned it halfway, leaving the collar open to let the straps breathe unseen, a secret layer against the evening chill. My reflection in the hallway mirror showed someone composed, hair tousled but neat, lips still rose-tinted, eyes holding that luminous flicker without wavering. I grabbed my keys from the counter, the metal jangling softly, and approached the door. The apartment's hush amplified everything. The faint creak of floorboards under my weight. The distant hum of a neighbor's TV filtering through the walls. My hand rested on the knob, cool brass biting into my palm, and my pulse quickened in my throat, a rapid flutter that made swallowing hard. This was the threshold, literal and not. The line between hidden possibility and the world's unfiltered gaze. What if the coat slipped, or a gust revealed the dress beneath? The street waited, indifferent yet probing, ready to judge or ignore. I twisted the knob slowly, the lock clicking open with a finality that sent a shiver down my spine. The door eased outward, cool air rushing in, carrying the scent of damp leaves and exhaust from the block below. I stepped over the sill, pulling it shut behind me with a soft thud, the sound echoing my heartbeat. The sidewalk met my feet first, concrete cool and uneven under the flats, each step sending a subtle vibration up my legs. The air felt thicker out here, laced with exposure, wrapping around me like an unseen current that tugged at the coat's edges. I started down the path, arms loose at my sides, the dress shifting beneath the wool, a private whisper of silk against skin, reminding me of the choice with every stride. Shadows stretched long from the setting sun, pooling at the curbs where parked cars gleamed dully, their headlights just beginning to flick on. Cars passed slow along the avenue, tires hissing over scattered gravel, brakes sighing at the stoplight a block away. A neighbor's dog barked, distant, sharp yips cutting through the quiet, chained in a yard across the street, its form a dark blur against the fading light. I kept my pace even, not rushing, not lingering, the flats clicking faintly on the pavement. The block unfolded familiar yet altered. The corner bodega with its neon sign buzzing to life. The row of brownstones where lights winked on in windows, silhouettes moving behind curtains. No one stared, not yet, but the possibility hung there, sharpening my senses. I scanned faces instinctively. The woman walking her terrier, head down in her phone. The man unloading groceries from a sedan, grunting under the weight of bags. Every glance felt like judgment, a potential unraveling, my mind twisting neutral looks into scrutiny. Did they see the coat's loose fit? The way it didn't quite match my usual stride? My throat tightened again, breath coming shallow. But I pressed on, the internal vigilance a constant hum, eyes darting to reflections in shop glass, searching for confirmation or betrayal. Yet beneath it all, the dress moved with me, subtle and alive, its fabric brushing my thighs in secret warmth that countered the fear. It was freedom in fragments, the sway unhindered, the silk's cool insistence against the wool's weight, a quiet rebellion that no one else could touch. The pulse in my throat eased fractionally, the block's rhythm syncing with mine. Dusk wrapping us both in tentative grace. Halfway down the block, an urgency pulled at me, sharp and insistent, like a thread tugging from within. The evening air had cooled further, nipping at my exposed ankles above the flats, and the subtle pressure in my bladder built with each step, amplified by the silk's constant whisper. The corner cafe loomed ahead, its windows glowing warm against the deepening dusk, steam fogging the glass from inside where patrons huddled over mugs. It was neutral ground, familiar from my sister's stories of quick coffees. But tonight it felt like a risk, wrapped in necessity. I quickened my pace, the coat brushing my calves, heart thudding a warning rhythm. Pushing through the door required everything. The brass handle cold under my palm, yielding with a chime that rang too loud in my ears. I kept my head down, eyes fixed on the scuffed linoleum, avoiding the barista's casual glance from behind the counter, and the scattered tables where a few locals nursed their drinks. The scent of fresh grounds and cinnamon hit me, grounding yet overwhelming, mixing with the faint rose on my lips. No one turned fully. Conversations hummed on, oblivious or indifferent. But the exposure prickled. Every rustle of my coat a potential giveaway. I aimed straight for the back, the sign for restrooms a dim beacon, my flats whispering over the floor as if to apologize for the intrusion. The bathroom door swung inward to a single stall, mercifully empty, the lock clicking home with a solid snap that sealed me in brief safety. The space was cramped, tiled in faded white with a mirror above a pedestal sink, fluorescent light buzzing softly overhead. I exhaled, leaning against the door for a beat, the wood cool through the wool. Only then did I unbutton the coat, letting it fall open, the blue dress emerging fully into view, straps steady, hem swaying free, no longer confined. In the mirror's unforgiving glare, the reflection renewed itself. Lipstick holding its rose tint without fade, face softer in the harsh light. The blue deepening shadows under my eyes, but illuminating the subtle curve at my neck. I stepped to the sink, twisting the faucet. Water rushed cold over my hands, shocking the warmth from my skin, droplets tracing veins that felt more delicate now. The chill spread up my arms, steadying the flutter in my chest as I cupped it to my mouth for a sip, the metallic edge cutting through the cafe's aromas. Breath fogged the glass briefly when I leaned close, a cloudy veil that blurred my edges before clearing to reveal the luminous spark again. Eyes meeting mine. Hesitant, but unflinching. The dress clung lightly, unmoved by the haste, its silk a quiet constant amid the tile's echo. Doubt whispered then, low and familiar, as I dried my hands on rough paper towels. What if this was all illusion? The calm just a pause before unraveling. Questions spilled silently to my reflection. Am I chasing shadows or light? The words hung unspoken, my lips parting slightly, rose-streaked. But no answers came, only the steady drip from the faucet, marking time. I traced the mirror's edge with a fingertip, feeling the cool surface, the internal coil tightening before loosening on its own. A nod followed, small and private, acceptance blooming like the fog's retreat. Not full certainty, but enough to anchor the moment. The blue and rose braiding resolve into the fear. The lock clicked open again, door easing toward the cafe's hum, and I stepped out with reclaimed poise, coat buttoned, but lighter in spirit. The street called once more, steps surer now, the evening wrapping around me like an old friend. Night fell fully as the walk looped back toward the apartment, the sky a deep indigo now, stars pricking through the urban haze like hesitant questions. I retraced my steps along the sidewalk, the flats carrying me with a rhythm that felt earned, the coat's wool brushing my arms in steady cadence. Streetlights hummed to life overhead, casting pools of amber that caught the dress's edge beneath. turning the blue to a subtle glow. Ethereal, as if the fabric absorbed the light and held it close. The air had sharpened, crisp with the scent of rain on distant pavement, and my breath came visible in faint clouds, mingling with the night's quiet pulse. The homeward path unfolded smoother than the outbound, the block's details blurring into familiarity, the bodega's neon flickering off now, leaving a residual buzz. The terrier's owner long gone, her leash a memory in the shadows. My body integrated the motion fully, fluid where it had once resisted, hips swaying without self-consciousness, the silk gliding over skin that no longer tensed against itself. Old tensions dissolved in the stride, that chronic knot in my shoulders unraveling thread by thread, replaced by a lightness that permeated deeper, like water seeping into parched earth. The dress moved as part of me, not an add-on. Its straps a faint pressure that anchored rather than confined. The rose on my lips a subtle warmth against the chill. The phone buzzed again in my pocket, pulling me from the reverie, the vibration a gentle jolt against my thigh. I fished it out under the next streetlight, screen illuminating my face in cool white. Alex. You do it? Proud of you. Next time, let's grab coffee. Your treat. In whatever you're wearing. The words landed soft. More support weaving into the evening's fabric, planning a shared step that felt less like a leap and more like continuation. No pressure. Just the quiet offer of company. Her intuition bridging the distance without invading it. I smiled into the glow, thumbs tapping a quick yes. The exchange sealing the night's gains with unspoken alliance. Deeper realization bloomed then, unhurried, as the apartment building came into view, its brick facade softened by the lamps, windows glowing like invitations. The dress wasn't an end, a one-time indulgence to fold away with the boxes. It prescribed quiet freedom, a subtle shift that unlocked doors I'd boarded shut. It braided the hidden with the visible, the flutter of curiosity into something sustainable, not fleeting. The blue had quieted the inner storm, not by force but by simple presence, revealing how the weight I'd carried was optional, liftable, in moments like this. My steps slowed at the stoop, keys jingling free, the night's cool tracing my exposed neck where the coat gapped. I paused at the entrance, catching my reflection in the glass door, hair windswept, eyes luminous under the light, the blue peeking at the collar like a secret shared with the self. A smile curved my lips, tentative but real, the rose holding its tint without need for touch-up. It wasn't triumph, not yet, but ease, the kind that settles after a long exhale. Curiosity lingered, a warm undercurrent ready for what came unhidden. More walks, more texts, more mirrors that reflected back possibility rather than pretense. The door yielded under my hand, the hallway's warmth welcoming me back, changed not in outline but in essence, the echo of the evening humming in my veins. The dress folded neatly into the box later that night, but not forgotten. My skin still hummed with its memory. A quiet promise against the quiet room. If this sparked something in you, subscribe to join more stories like mine, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next step.